We ain't gonna do no talking. Let's just get straight to it.
Unbelievable, but it's entirely true. I'll go first.
Okay, I'm gonna try really hard to summarize this because I could literally talk about this forever. I'm gonna tell you guys my dad's story because I have my own that I think is really, really freaky, but his is like another level. When my dad was a teenager, he was a little more on the rebellious side, and my grandma was very, very religious. She always has been. And so when his friend came over with Ouija board and said, "Do you want to do this?" He was like, "Okay, sure." I think also at the time people were more acute to believe that Ouija boards weren't real because we didn't have the internet and we weren't able to hear people's stories about this. So it's my dad, my dad's friend, and my dad's brother, so my uncle. They all decide to do it together because they're all friends. They sit down, they open the board, and they have the spirit come through. It's a girl, she says she's a pilgrim, I don't remember the name, and they talk to her, and it's fine, they have a good experience. So because they had a good experience and it was fun, they did it again and again. They did it about 2 or 3 times. Everything was fine every single time until the last time they ever used it. The last time they ever used a Ouija board, they sat down and they were talking to this one specific spirit. Again, she's the only one that they ever talked to. While they're talking to her, she's in the middle of spelling something out, the board stops, and the pattern, the way it starts to move starts to change. So pretty immediately they can tell that it's not her anymore, there's something else there, and they're kind of confused, so they ask, "Is someone else here?" The board moves to yes, and they're like, "Okay, who are you?" And it starts to spell out a name. I'm not going to say the name because I believe names have power and it genuinely scares me, but I will finger spell it. Okay? It's pretty easy to figure out who this is, you'll see. And the way that the board is moving now is different. It's ominous. It like has a negative energy to it. So they ask the person or whoever, they ask the spirit, "What do you want? Like, why are you here? Why did you get rid of the other spirit?" The board starts to spell out over and over again, "I want to kill you. I want to kill you." Over and over. So this is enough for them. They close out the board, they don't talk about it, they never use it again, they don't touch it. But obviously this experience stuck with my dad. It's scary. So when he became an adult and Google had just kind of become a thing, he decides to Google it and see if there's any information about this spirit. Nothing comes up. There's not much on Google at this point, so he's like, "Oh, okay, whatever." A couple years later, once it's a little bit more established, he Googles again, and there's a little bit more information. Other people are talking about this and the experiences that they've had, and he's like, "Oh, that's really weird." And then when the internet becomes fully established, YouTube's a thing, Reddit's a thing, it's there. He Googles it a 3rd time, and at this point, there's a full-length feature film about it, YouTube videos, Reddit threads, like thousands of people talking about how they've had an experience with this one specific spirit. That's why I said it's really easy to figure out who this is if you actually want to. I wouldn't really recommend, I don't know. So of course this terrifies him. He's like, "Oh my god," like that's crazy. And I 100% believe my dad because I grew up hearing the story before the internet was a really established thing, so I know he's not making it up.
Why don't people understand? Why do people do that? Like you just want to play with it. It's a game, it's fun, and then it's fun till it's not fun. People, them Ouija boards ain't nothing to play with. Never nothing to play with at all. That's a no-no. That's a no-no.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable, but is entirely true.
When I was 3 years old, my family and I moved out of a small apartment complex and into a big house. And during the viewing process of this house, my 3 older siblings and my mother went to go meet with the realtor to go check it out. Everything was going fine. They were mostly upstairs, and they loved everything so far, and then they reached the basement. When my family went into the basement, they saw dry droplets of blood splattered on the floor and on the walls. They found...
Nope. Wrap it up. Time to get out of there. It's time to go. If you already just moved it, if you're looking at the house and you see it and they didn't even take the care to clean it up, that should tell you something, baby. And the way it's going, it look like y'all ain't even it didn't bother you, huh? No, didn't bother. Okay.
They found bird feathers, and then they saw a satanic symbol drawn on the wall. Now, the previous owners of this house belonged to a mother and her son, and according to this woman, she mostly lived upstairs, she let her son live in the basement. She said she kind of just let him do his own thing, left him alone because he was an adult. I am the youngest of 4 children, and my siblings are significantly older than I am. So, naturally, being the only child in the house, the spirits really took a liking to me. When I was very young, it started off with I'd be walking through the house and I would hear low-pitched growling coming from behind closed doors, closet doors. I distinctly remember this one time walking past the closet door in the basement, and I put my ear to the door to make sure that I was hearing what I thought I was hearing. And I was. And so I ran upstairs. I grabbed my mom. I was like, you need to go and open the door because there's something in there. And so she opens the door and there's nothing in there. By the time I was age 10, it was no longer just low growling coming from behind closed doors, but it had also become banging on walls, things coming off of the walls. And I remember this one time I was home alone and I was upstairs, and there was just ruckus coming from the basement. It sounded like something was pounding on the wall. It sounded like something had flung off the wall and broke. And I was petrified, and I believed that someone had broken into my house because that's how bad it was. So I ran over to my neighbor's house and I was like, you need to come inside. You need to check to see if someone broke into my house because I think someone did. He goes inside. He goes in the basement. No one's there. And the older I got, the worse it became. So by the age of 13, it was no longer just hearing things, but I was also physically seeing figures in my home. When I was 13, the paranormal activity got increasingly bad, and it was so bad to the point where it was disrupting my sleep. Every single night I was woken up at 3 a.m. on the dot. At first it was just my TV would be turned on, or I'd hear like really creepy noises coming from my closet or like a dark corner. But then I finally saw it. Now, the way that my room was set up was I had a room upstairs, and my room was at the very end of this long, narrow hallway. And when I was laying down on my pillow in my bed, and my door was open, I could see directly down the hallway. So when I would be woken up at 3 a.m, I'd open my eyes, and I slept with my door open because I was so fucking scared. And when I would look down the hallway, I saw this very tall, dark figure. It was all black. Couldn't see its face, but I knew it was a man. I just knew. This figure, every single night, he would be standing at the end of the hallway, and he would walk slowly down the hallway into my room and stand at the foot of my bed and just try to intimidate me. My sleep had become so bad, and my mom didn't believe that I was seeing the figures that I was seeing, so she took me to a neurologist. She took me to several sleep studies, several sleep doctors, and of course, they all ran tests on me. The doctors could never come up with anything because my brain activity was normal, so they just conjured it up to me being a child, and it was just my imagination. It was all in my head. When I reached high school, most of my siblings had moved out of the house, and so I ended up taking my older sister's bedroom that was in the basement, which was very brave of me. But at this point in time is when the paranormal activity, it gets spicy. I would still be woken up at 3, 4 in the morning, but this time with physical pain. I would wake up with bruises on my body. I'd wake up with scratches on my body in threes. And one time it was so bad that I woke up from being choked. I would hear tapping on the walls, banging on the walls. I'd hear scratches. I would hear creepy ass growls, noises. And I also would often smell rotten eggs. At this point, I figured that whatever was haunting me was still the same entity that it was upstairs, the man I was talking about, but no.
Grandma, aunties, cousin's house. Like, was there ever an escape plan at this point? Because it's time to get out of there. You the only person who's sensing something. It's just time to get out of there. None of your other siblings had any experiences like these. I'm just trying to figure it out. I do know that most of the time they do like to gradually work on younger children, because you can still shape them and shape their energy, shape their fear, shape their doubt. Just shape them into being more of a more potent source to suck energy out of. And the more they believe, the more it creates fear. And, the parents are not going to believe anything because they're not messing with the parents yet. It's not beneficial to them to mess with the parents because their belief is not as open as the child is. So, yeah. Let's just play it. My bad, y'all.
This time it was a woman because They took different shifts, apparently. I don't fucking know. One of the very first times I had ever seen her, I was having a sleepover with my friends, and I was woken up in the middle of the night. Classic. And she was standing in the corner of my bedroom, and she was just standing there, staring down at me. She had a long, tattered dress. Her limbs were all decrepit and broken, and her hair was long and ratty and dark, and I could not see her face. At this point in time, I had grown so accustomed to this shit that I just didn't care anymore. Like, it was a part of my life, and it didn't scare me. I remember waking up, looking at her, and being like, I'm going back to sleep. To reiterate, I never really spoke about this with my siblings. Again, my mom didn't believe me, and I had already grown indifferent to it, so it was just kind of whatever. But there was this one night. My brother was still living in the house, and he was the only sibling of mine living in the home. And it was Black Friday. I think I had to be like 18, I think, and I was at the mall with my friends. It was around 2 something in the morning, and I get a call from him. And he's like, you need to come home right now. I am not going back into the house until you get here. This really freaked me out because my brother has had several experiences with like paranormal shit, and he's never been scared before. So I rush home, and he's standing outside, he's pacing, and I'm like, what happened? And he's like, I can't talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I was like, okay, let's just go in the house together. So we go in the house, we go up the stairs, and we're in the kitchen. And at this point, like, I'm just trying to ground him, so we're just talking about like random things, you know. But finally, we decide that we're gonna go back downstairs into the basement into his room. But in order to do that, we have to pass that long, narrow hallway. And my family was sleeping, so all the lights were off. As we're passing the hallway, I hear a very low-pitched growl coming from the end of the hallway. I didn't say anything to my brother. I didn't look at him. I didn't act different. We get downstairs and we get into his room, and he looks at me and he says, did you hear that? This was like the ultimate confirmation for me. Like, everything that I had been told regarding, like, it's all in your head, like, it's not true, you're just a kid, whatever. It was finally confirmed that no, this was a real fucking experience. Finally, he tells me why he wouldn't go back in the house, like what scared him. And he told me that he was going out for a cigarette, and before he went out the front door, he had a really horrible feeling. He turned around, he looked up the stairs, and it was that woman that I had seen previously. He described her wearing the same thing, he described her looking the same, and he said that she was just standing at the top of the stairs.
Okay, secondly, entirely throughout this whole video, has anybody been looking at the jacket that's hanging on the wall behind her? I'm just trying to make sure, you know, I'm seeing a jacket, and it's a jacket. Right, it's a jacket.
Staring down at him, just trying to scare him. As the years passed, my brother and I eventually got them out of our house. It took a lot of time and intention, but we did it. After that, like, the paranormal activity was not as heavy or dense. I mean, things would move on their own and stuff like that, but it was not at all what it was before. When I was 23, my mom sold the house, and so I moved out. The very night that I moved out and into the new place, I had a dream of the 3 entities, demons that were haunting me, and finally they showed me their faces, and they were essentially like, goodbye, like, this is it, you've been released.
Does anybody have anything to say after this video? Because, like, what do you do at that point? Like, I can see her position, because it's like she's a kid. Nobody's listening to her. Nobody's saying anything. Oh my God. This experience literally just made me think about the movie about that child who moved into a new house with his parents. And his parents, he started experiencing supernatural events. And then he would tell his parents, and his parents wouldn't believe him. And then they took him to like a hospital. See what's going on, making them say like, hey, there's nothing wrong. And then all of a sudden, he goes into his parents' room. He peeks in there and he sees that his parents are doing some like real demonic stuff, or like they look possessed or something. And then they'll come in his room and like talk to him like nothing has happened. And he's just been in fear this whole entire time. He's trying to tell his teachers that his parents, something's wrong with his parents. It's getting to a point where like they're like, if you speak on anything or say anything, we're gonna like, it got so crazy. Like his parents were possessed. It was messed. But that just made me think of that, because it's like, oh my gosh, my bad. But y'all, that's my take on it. That's what I was looking at. I'm like, oh my gosh, it reminds me so much of that movie.
I hear somebody walking up the stairs, which I assume is my brother because he had lived there too at the time. But he stops at the top of the stairs and he kind of just like peeks into my room just a little bit, and I know it's him because it's like his face and his height and his hair. Like he had an afro at the time. That was the outline of my brother. And so I look at him and I'm like, what are you doing? And he doesn't answer me. He just keeps staring at me. And I say again, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you just staring at me? At this point, because it's dark, I could only see the outline of him, or it moves in front, like right center in my door. And he's not a super religious person, but I feel like I needed some Jesus Christ in this moment. So I go to my parents, I tell them what's been going on. My parents were not a believer before this story. I've always had weird things happen to me throughout my life with paranormal stuff, and they just don't believe me. But I asked my mom to get one of her close friends, a close family friend, to come pray over my room because she's done that type of work for years. She goes and prays over people's houses who have spirits attached to them. So to her, it's just to like entertain me and make me feel safer. So the family, many other ones that all
y'all. Hey, I don't know. This is something. I don't even have no comment for this one. You already know what it is. I don't know. I do know that your spirit hand is your left hand, because your right hand is your physical hand. This is what you do physically. You're doing more things in the physical. So bound, your spirit hand, your prayer hand, your more connected hand would be your left one. You see?
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
So I had to hop on this trend because I could literally make a whole entire series about all the experiences I have had growing up, especially in the house that I grew up in. But I'll start with one really creepy story that literally gave me chills and still freaks me out to this day. When I was younger, my family had Korean exchange students that lived in our house, and one of the students shared a room with me, so we had a bunk bed, and she took the bottom and I took the top. And during this time, my dad had removed all of the doors to all the rooms in our basement because we were getting new carpet. And so I wanted a little bit more privacy. So for Christmas, my grandma gifted me some door beads, but they didn't come to the floor all the way. They were about a foot off of the floor. And my sister Callie would always come in and just steal my clothes, my makeup, whatever she wanted to use. And I was a pretty light sleeper, so she would slide under the door beads to come in the morning before school and to not wake me up. There was one particular night where my exchange student was visiting her uncle in another state for Thanksgiving, so I was alone in my room. It was nighttime, everybody was in bed, and it was dark, and I heard my door beads. So I looked over and I see what looks like my sister, just like her silhouette, and she's got long, curly hair, and she was crawling on all fours with her hair, and her hair was like hanging in front of her face, and she was crawling on all fours, sliding under the door beads, and I could see the door beads like hitting against her back as she slid under. And once she got under, she like hurried to the end of my bed where the closet was at the foot of my bed. So I was thinking to myself, like, oh, I caught her in the act this time. I'm going to totally tell her that I knew she was stealing my clothes. So I snuck to the edge, to the end of the bunk bed. And I just like, wow, like tried to scare her. And when I looked over the end of my bed, there was nobody there. So I just started screaming, and then my sister ended up running down the hall, and she came in and turned on my light, and she's like, what? And I was just like, and I just freaked out and told her what had happened. But that was one time that was super, super creepy.
No, ma'am. Nope. Just like these comments, what these people are saying, crawling on all fours is a no for me. No, you're done. Get out. Wrap it up. Time to go. Nope. Change rooms. Get somebody do something. Hello? Mommy? Father? Come. Please come. We gotta talk about this house. It's time to go. I don't care if I'm 6 or 8 or 12 right now. It's time to go. Listen to me. Listen. I need you to listen. We gotta get out of here. We're gonna do one more, y'all, because my sensitivities are tingling now. Okay.
I live in Savannah, Georgia. If you know, you know. But basically, they say it's the most haunted city in America. I don't know if I entirely always believed that, but I do now, and I have some good stories. So I'm going to tell you one right now, and I might stitch this and tell more. Anyways, so my sophomore year of college, I moved into an old Victorian home with some roommates. And immediately when we got there, we all knew it was haunted. It was just like a feeling of, you're not alone in this house, there are other people here, whatever. But it never felt malicious or all that scary or anything negative at all. It was like an old man energy, and you would hear him like walking on the floor late at night, and he would always go to the bathroom, and then in the bathroom you'd hear like grunting, and we kind of thought like, oh my god, it's this old man that is just so annoyed that 4 college women are living in his house and like having boys over and drinking alcohol underage, whatever. That's what we thought. And then these coins started showing up in the toilet, and they were always pennies. None of us really carried change. This was also during COVID, so like we weren't having cash on us. Like we just weren't. And we noticed that they were all from the same year. So we had this jar behind the toilet that had all of these coins from the same year. And it was just weird. But we had the plumber come check it out. No one could ever say why it was happening. It just was not something that was explainable. Whatever, right? Other weird stuff would happen in the house. Like we would all have dreams that would kind of correlate to each other, or they were the same dream. And then we would wake up with scratches, and they were not like human or pet scratches. They were like 3 scratches, and we'd all have them in the same spot. And that was really spooky-ooky. And yeah, like that all happened, and that was terrible. But we all still were like, okay, it's fine. We can ignore the noises. It'll all be good. Girls, okay. So my friend AJ comes over to the house. She does not believe in ghosts. She does now, but she did not believe in ghosts at the time. And we had this trash can that was sitting across the room that had one of those lids that swivels like this. You know what I'm talking about. And it just started on its own swiveling back and forth. And AJ was like, oh my god, what the fuck is happening? Me having seen a little bit more of that kind of stuff around the house, I was like, Ethan, stop it. My boyfriend's trying to fuck with me. I'm trying to tell a story. Ethan. Anyways.
Can you pause?
No, I'm telling a story.
But,
Okay, anyways, we noticed the trash can kind of moving on its own back and forth. And AJ doesn't believe in ghosts, but she is like semi-spiritual, so she was like, can you just go light some incense? Like, I feel uncomfortable with this. I go in my room. I grab incense. I come outside, and I'm trying to light the incense. It was a lighter I had bought that day. It won't light. Like, whatever I do, it will not light. Oh my god, I still get chills thinking about this. And all of a sudden, I hear AJ go, Kat, help me, what's happening to me? And she's doubled over on the chair like this. And I'm like, what's going on? And she's across the room from me. The minute that me and her make eye contact, immediate, like, tunnel vision. Complete tunnel vision. The worst feeling I have ever felt in my life. Like, impending doom. It basically felt like my body was saying, get the fuck out of there. Go, 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 go. Run. But AJ's sitting there, and I'm over here like, oh my god, I need to run. And AJ is like toppled over and can't move. And I was a bad friend. I ran. I don't know what, like, it was such a guttural feeling of get the fuck out of here right now or else something terrible.
Oh my, wow. Oh my God, why would you? You just gonna leave? Bro, what is your zodiac sign? Because I know. You gotta be a fire sign. You have to be.
Terrible is going to happen that I've ever felt in my life. I've never felt anything like that since or before. Anyways, finally, I run downstairs. My dog runs with me. And then my roommate went upstairs and grabbed AJ. And we were on the front porch. We both experienced the same thing. We felt nauseous, like the worst feeling. I can't even describe it properly because it was terrible. And then my dog would not, basically like a circle radius on the sidewalk and the street, my dog would not walk past like that circle radius and go inside the house. We had to have a friend come over and cleanse it before my dog would even cross that like pathway. And we did not sleep there. None of us slept there that night. And we almost had a priest come to the house because it got so bad. And I forgot to mention, the next night that I slept over, from the office space that we were in, I had this super vivid nightmare of a man in like a full gimp suit crawling into my room. I still don't know if like I maybe was awake for that, but it was so vivid and it was the scariest dream I've ever had. I've never had anything like that since. And there are other stories, but there you go. That's like that's the one that keeps me up at night.
Oh my God, yo, we gotta wrap it up. Y'all, I done heard enough. Have y'all heard enough? Probably not, cause y'all crazy. Yeah. That's about. I don't know what's the craziest one I've heard so far. Like I don't know. All of these are crazy. Which one is y'all top one for real? Cause like, I don't know. I think the girl who smelled them boiled eggs and that sulfur, the girl who was haunted like her entire time being in the house and her parents didn't believe her, like that one was the scariest one of this video. But this one, I don't know. Cause like, I think the one, yeah. Anyways, I love y'all. Thank y'all for watching. Let me know if y'all want a part after this one. Y'all stay dangerous. Enjoy the rest of y'all day. And let's keep growing, keep shining, and enjoying life. All right, I'll see y'all in the next video.